Welcome back to Top 5 Repairs. How do you know you have a bad outer tie rod end and it's time to replace it? This part of the outer tie rod is connected to the steering knuckle, and this part of the outer tie rod is connected to the inner tie rod on the steering rack or rack and pinion. And if the outer tie rod break on this part or this part, you can actually lose control. You should always change the outer tie rod ahead of time and don't wait for it to fail, because again, if it fell, you're going to lose control. So the first sign that you know that it is time to change the outer tie rod is that grease is leaking out of the dust boot, and if the dust boot is ripped or torn, you should also replace the outer tie rod. When the outer tie rods start to fail, there will be excessive play. And when there is excessive play, it means that the outer tie rod can easily rock side to side. And when the outer tie rod easily rocks side to side, it is going to make a clunking noise, a popping noise, and even a thumping noise. The easiest way to check for a bad outer tie rod is to jack up the front end of the vehicle and grab the outer tie rod and rock it side to side. If the outer tie rod starts to move, then you know it is bad and you should replace it. The next time that you know that the outer tie rod is starting to go bad is that you feel intense vibration when you're grabbing the steering wheel. Also, when you're driving and it feels like you can't maintain a straight line and it feels like your vehicle is starting to wander and you're fighting hard to keep that steering wheel straight, that could be another sign that your outer tie rod is failing. If the outer tie rod is failing, it is going to cause uneven tire wear. So if you notice that one side of the tire is wearing out faster than the other side, that can also be a sign that the outer tie rod is bad on that side. If your outer tie rod is bad, you should replace it, and anybody can replace the outer tie rod. One of my favorite tools to remove the outer tie rod is to use a hammer or a sledge and hit it on the steering knuckle, and this can cause the outer tie rod to pop loose. And if that does not work, I like to use a fork and wedge it right here and use a hammer and bang it in, and this will cause the outer tie rod to pop out. And if that does not work, I'll use a Pitman arm puller, and this also worked very well. And if this does not work, I'll use a ball joint separator tool, and this worked extremely well. When you change the outer tie rod, most likely you're going to need an alignment. And if you don't want to get an alignment, then make sure you follow this step. So when you remove the outer tie rod, make sure to count the amount of turn when you're removing the outer tie rod. For example, if it takes 16 turns to remove the outer tie rod, then make sure you turn the new outer tie rod 16 turns back in, and that's how you avoid getting an alignment. Here is a common problem when trying to get the castle nut back on the outer tie rod end. For example, when you try to put on the castle nut, you're going to realize that when you're trying to ratchet it in, this part is going to keep turning. So to prevent that part from turning, look on the bottom end. You see that part right there? That's going to require a special tool, and that can prevent the outer tie rod part of this part from spinning. And if yours don't come with something like this, you can always use a needle nose and clamp it right there, and then you could ratchet that castle nut in. And also make sure when that castle nut is back on, make sure to install new cotter pin on the castle nut. I hope you found this video useful. As always, thank you for watching and subscribe to Top 5 Auto Repairs.